Welcome to Balanced But Barely, a podcast for anyone who looks like they have it all together, but internally has about 47 tabs open in their mind. I'm Carla Jean, and each episode we talk real-life stress, anxiety, and self-regulation in a way that actually makes sense. You'll walk away with practical tools to feel calmer, think clear, and create more balance without needing to hide underneath your weighted blanket by 2 p.m. Today's affiliate is Poshmark, the #1 social marketplace where you can buy, sell, and connect with people whose style you love. Go to Poshmark.com and use promo code CarlaJean143, that's CarlaJean 143, to sign up and receive $10 just for you. All right, are we ready for my balanced but barely moment of the week? All right, so I hate feeling excluded. I mean, who does, right? So let me give you some backstory to my BBB moment, my balanced but barely moment for the week. So I grew up in a family that had different pockets of people that were only okay with talking to other different pockets of people, like aunt and uncle XY will come to the party as long as the other uncle and his kid J, all of that, like crazy toxic family chaos. So the entire family was never in the same room or at the same gathering at the same time because of this. Like, we legitimately would give people different times to come to events. Like, you guys come at 2 because so-and-so is showing up at 4. And it was just nuts. And then there were always people talking behind other people's backs. And then if 2 people who didn't like each other happened to find themselves in the same room, holy moly. Talk about fake. They would act so fake. Like, think Kim Kardashian trying to cry on camera, like that fake. It was so uncomfortable. And then as I got older, I started to experience this exclusionary behavior from certain family members and the passive acceptance of the behavior from other family members. I was hurt by the exclusion, but then I was also really mad at those who never spoke up to say that this wasn't right and that they shouldn't treat people like this. I honestly don't know which one was more hurtful, the unkind exclusion or the false, quote unquote, give a damn by the rest of the family. So fast forward to this week, decades and decades later, beyond this experience that I had in my family growing up, and I find myself in the same freaking family dynamic. Different family, same family dynamic. I never wanted this in my life. And I worked so hard to avoid it. There are family members that are estranged because of this. I haven't spoken to family members in years because of this really unkind behavior. So I'm sitting here this week, shaking my head and asking myself, why did I recreate an environment that was so hurtful to me growing up? And then the tougher question that I am having issues with is, what am I going to do about it? I'm not sure. I don't have an answer yet. That has been my balance, but barely. It was more than a moment. It's been all week. Let me know what your balanced but barely moment was for this week. You can share it on Instagram at _CarlaJean143, or share it right here in the comments of this podcast. All right, if you're still listening, welcome to Balanced But Barely. Today we're talking about violence. Now, before you start wondering if I accidentally switched podcasts, stick with me, because I'm not talking about violence we see on the news. I'm talking about violence that many of us practice every single day without even realizing it. The way we speak to each other, the way we speak to ourselves, the way we ignore our bodies, the way we abandon our needs, the way we demand our needs be met by other people, the way we sacrifice our peace, the way we dismiss contributions to our peace by others, the way we create financial chaos and then shame ourselves for doing so, the way we keep pushing, proving, fixing, striving, and surviving long after our mind, body, and spirit have begged us to stop. In yoga philosophy, there are basic principles that guide a person to live a balanced life free of suffering. Yes, yoga is more than just standing on your head and touching your toes. The word yoga actually means to unite, and when all the principles are practiced in unity, the individual lives in a state that is free of suffering. Basically, yoga is a way of living, broken down into 8 main principles. 2 of those principles, they're called the yamas and the niyamas, and I'm not going to go crazy deep into this. I just want to give you some background. Those are the guidelines on how to live in peace with others and how to live in peace with yourself. So if you are unfamiliar with yoga, and let's say you're more familiar with Christianity, not to be blasphemous, but you think of the yamas and the niyamas kind of like the 10 commandments. I mean, they're basically a set of guidelines, a set of rules that if practiced on a daily basis, you will live a life free of suffering. So the first guideline to live in peace with others is called Ahimsa. And this word translates to nonviolence or non-harm. And while many people think it means not causing harm, its deepest practice begins with ourselves. Because how can we create peace in our relationships if we're at war with ourselves? How can we offer compassion to others if we refuse to offer it to ourselves? Today, we're exploring Ahimsa through the lens of the 4 pillars of wellness: mental wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, and financial wellness. Because nonviolence isn't about just what you do or don't do, it's about how you live your life. So by the end of this episode, you'll learn how self-harm can show up in subtle everyday ways in the choices that we make, what Ahimsa teaches about self-compassion and compassion for others, how to recognize violence in your thoughts, words, expectations, habits, and choices, and practical mindfulness tools to create more peace in your life. Are you ready? I'm definitely ready. Let's get into it. So let's start with this place many battles began, our minds. Have you ever noticed how quickly you speak to yourself after making a mistake? I can't believe I did that. What is wrong with me? God, I'm such an idiot. I should know better. What about to coworkers, strangers in line at the market, or the grandpa on the road in front of you? I know we want to sometimes, but do you actually say them out loud or give them a look that could kill? Can you imagine saying to a stranger or to a person in line at the grocery store saying, I can't believe you did that? Or, what is wrong with you? You're such an idiot. Or how about this one? You should know better. And honestly, there are plenty of Karens out there that do say these things. So if these things are sounding familiar to you, you might be the Karen in your life. Just saying. Imagine saying these things to a child or your best friend or your dog. Actually, don't say them to your dog. Your dog is doing great. Leave the poor puppers alone. He just wants to be loved. He wants to sniff and snuggle you. So let's just be nice to the dogs. Yet many of us say these things to ourselves every day, and we've done it for so long that it feels normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy. One of the most overlooked forms of violence is self-criticism. Every thought leaves an imprint. Every story becomes a belief, and every belief influences how we show up in the world. Mental Ahimsa asks, what if I stopped attacking myself? What if I spoke to myself like someone I loved? What if my inner voice became a safe place to land instead of another battlefield? Research from psychologist Kristen Neff shows that self-compassion is linked to lower anxiety, lower depression, greater emotional resilience, and improved well-being. Not because we're lowering our standards, because we're removing shame from the equation. Are you ready for your first mindfulness prompt? If it feels safe and you are not driving, close your eyes and take a nice slow breath in. And a nice slow breath out. Ask yourself, what is the sentence I say to myself most often? Take another slow breath in and a slow breath out. And ask, would I say that to someone I love? If not, what would a kinder truth sound like? One of my beloved yoga teachers was speaking on the practice of Ahimsa and asked this question, is it always good to tell the truth? Of course, many of us said yes, and she asked again, are you sure? Always? Now, I have a history as a child where I told the truth, was not validated, and was told that I was lying. It was extremely painful to be in such a vulnerable state, and the memory of that makes me very angry. So discussions around truth are tricky for me sometimes. I wanted to answer, no, not unless you're sure that they're going to believe you, because they don't deserve to know the truth if they are going to hurt you in the long run by not believing you. That wasn't what I said. In fact, I didn't say anything. I just sat on my yoga mat in the corner waiting to see what the quote unquote right answer was. My teacher responded with, if you are committed to practicing ahimsa, then telling the truth isn't always good. Confusion was spreading through the room. You could see it in everyone's eyes, looking side to side. And then one brave soul spoke up and said, well, so if I know my friend's boyfriend is cheating on her and I tell her, she would be hurt, so I shouldn't tell her? And my teacher responded, you must be truthful, but you must deliver that truth in a loving and non-harming manner. Your friend will not be hurt because you told her if the news is delivered with love and kindness. She will be hurt because of her boyfriend's betrayal. I took this as it's the who, what, when, where, and how you speak the truth. This lesson has stayed with me, and I reflect on it often when I'm struggling with setting boundaries, confronting a difficult situation, or finding out something that I wish I didn't know. I stop and I ask myself the following questions. Is it my truth to share? Will sharing this truth add value to my life and to theirs? And what is the most loving manner that I can share this truth? I use this technique when I'm confronted with rude, dismissive, and aggressive behavior to shape my response. If I don't use this technique, then I am more prone to react rather than to respond. Reacting to conflict instead of responding has never made me feel good. Almost always do I regret not taking a beat, not taking a day, just taking some time to answer these questions, let the feel move through the body, and then structure my response. When I reacted, it wasn't sharing my truth that made me feel bad. It was how I shared my truth. Reacting causes harm and can be violent. Responding gives me the time to practice ahimsa or non-harm, while also practicing satya, which is truthfulness, and it's also the second guideline of the yamas of the 8 limbs of yoga. Now let's talk about our bodies, specifically the way many of us treat them like rental cars. No maintenance, no rest, we're running on fumes, we're ignoring every warning light that pops up on the dash, and somehow we are expecting peak performance. Many people think physical harm only looks like obvious injury, but ahimsa invites us to look deeper. How often do we ignore exhaustion? Skip meals, push through illness, overeat to numb emotions, avoid movement, over-exercise, over-consume drugs or alcohol, sacrifice sleep, live on caffeine and determination. The body keeps score, you guys. Eventually, it demands our attention. The question becomes, will we listen before it has to scream? Physical ahimsa means treating the body as a partner instead of a machine. It means honoring our limits, respecting and prioritizing rest, moving because we love our bodies, not because we're punishing them. All right, time for our second mindfulness activity. Take a deep breath in and just simply notice your body. Ask yourself, what does my body need today? Not what it should need, not what everyone else needs from it, but what does my body need today? Rest, movement, water, food, sunlight, maybe a slower pace, and just listen. Listen without judgment. As a recovering people pleaser and a chronic overachiever, I constantly live at the crossroads of help people at all cost and never give up. Not exactly the neighborhood of health and abundance. This combination was so harmful to me that I nearly lost everything. When I was engaged to my second husband, we experienced a very tragic hiking accident. While hiking together, he fell 30 feet onto a bed of large boulders. After making my way down to him, I realized he was in really bad shape. I had to perform CPR, And I literally breathed life back into this man. He was transported via helicopter to the ICU, where we spent the next 58 days praying for a miracle, followed by 4 months at an inpatient therapy hospital where he had to learn to walk, talk, and eat again. During this time, my wellness never crossed my mind. My only concern was him surviving and getting back to our life. I arrived at the hospital every morning at 9 a.m. and I did not leave until 9 p.m. every night. I sat next to his bed reading aloud, talking to him while we watched his favorite TV show, massaged his hands and his feet, all while not knowing if he even knew I was there. I barely ate. I only slept a few hours a night. The majority of my social interaction was with the nurses and the doctors. I sent my 8-year-old son to live with his dad. I quit my job, and I let the bank take my house. Physically, I had not been harmed in the accident, but I was suffering mentally, very, very much so. I harmed myself with every decision that I made. Physically, I strained my body through lack of sleep and nutrition. Spiritually, I was so angry that no amount of Sunday service could bring comfort or support. Financially, I abandoned my career and sacrificed my home, ultimately forcing myself to be dependent on others. And mentally, I saw the accident on repeat in my mind over and over, which launched me into numerous panic attacks a day. It would take me years to overcome what I suffered mentally and even longer to recover spiritually and financially. Ultimately, it wasn't until I began to incorporate the physical practice of yoga and striving to live by the 8 limbs of yoga that I truly understood how traumatized I actually was by this event. I held guilt and shame for suggesting that we even go hiking that day. I felt responsible for not insisting that he not take the route that he took when he fell. I replayed that day over and over, followed by the choices I made for the months and years after, all while beating myself up, as if I could have done anything different given the things that I knew at the time and the tools that I had available. I wish I could go back in time and hug that version of me. I wish I could tell her not to be so hard on herself and that she doesn't deserve to suffer. But most of all, I wish it hadn't taken me so long to learn how to be nice to myself. Let's talk about 2 pillars rarely connect: spiritual wellness and physical wellness. Stay with me, because both involve trust. Both involve values, and both reveal our relationship with fear. Spiritual violence often looks like ignoring your intuition, abandoning your values, constant comparison, seeking approval over authenticity, living disconnected from purpose, and judging others. Spiritual Ahimsa asks, am I living in alignment with what matters most? And then let's talk about money. Because money is emotional, it's very emotional. Financial violence isn't about being rich or poor. It's about the ways we create suffering around money. Overspending, just avoiding our finances altogether, living in denial, constant scarcity thinking, shaming ourselves for past mistakes, or believing that we're bad because of our bank account. Financial Ahimsa asks, how can I make decisions that create peace instead of chaos? How can I respect my future self? And how can I stop using shame as a financial strategy? Because, spoiler alert, shame has never balanced a budget, y'all. I've checked, it still doesn't work. Whether it's spiritual wellness or financial wellness, Ahimsa teaches us the same lesson. Peace is built through small daily choices, not perfection, practice. All right, let's slow this down a minute. Let's take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Place your hand over your heart and ask yourself, where in my life am I creating unnecessary suffering? Mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. What is one act of non-harm I can practice this week? One choice, one shift, one act of kindness towards yourself. I never really thought much about money other than the fact that I didn't have a lot of it. I grew up with a single mother and 2 siblings. My mom always made sure we had what we needed, but if I wanted anything beyond the basics, I had to work for it. I actually started working when I was 15 years old. Well, before that, if you count like babysitting, I actually started babysitting when I was 11. I went to this special like Red Cross babysitting course that they had back in the olden days. I don't even know if they still have it, but I got this like card that said I'm, card carrying certified babysitter now. So I guess technically I started working at 11, but for the sake of this story, we're going to say 15. All right. I paid for my own car insurance, gas, sports, my Letterman's jacket, all my graduation necessities, clothes, beauty products, and anytime I wanted to have fun with my friends. If I wanted it, I had to work for it. I actually worked 2 jobs throughout high school while playing sports and maintaining a 3.5 grade point average. I never learned how to balance the hustle for money with purpose. Work ethic has never been an issue for me, but the mindset of scarcity has. You might think that this would cause someone to save every penny, but it actually did the opposite for me. It made me work my ass off and then spend every penny on whatever I felt I needed or deserved. I was never taught about savings, and I grew up in a situation that there was never enough left over to save. So I never saved anything. The idea that I needed to spend what I had before it was gone seems ridiculous now, but it was my reality. And I think it's the reality for a lot of people. So I think we all have heard this before, but there is a well-known academic study of lottery winners that found that lottery winners are somewhat more likely than the average person to file bankruptcy in 3 to 5 years after winning the lottery. Like, how many of us have said or have heard someone say, oh, if I won the lottery, I would do X, Y, and Z. Like, this is crazy that the majority of lottery winners actually end up filing bankruptcy within 5 years of their winning. That's nuts to me. You have more money that you can dream of and you lose it all and have to file bankruptcy. That leads me to believe that they end up worse off than they were when they actually won the lottery. And I believe that this is due to spending without purpose. So I know how to make money, but it took me a long time to learn how to spend money in a way that maintained balance between the 4 pillars of wellness. My budget now reflects my goals of my financial, mental, spiritual, and financial wellness. This practice has established security, independence, freedom, and pride in the life that I live. I no longer spend or save out of fear of not having enough money in the future. My budget allows me to spend and save with intention and balance, regardless of how much money I make. Fear has been replaced with trust. Recklessness has been replaced with planning. And awareness now replaces excuses. I now understand that without planning and awareness and trust, I'm just harming myself. So I have a few resources I want to make sure I leave you with, and I will also include these in the show notes on the website at carlajean143.com. So there's an app that I want you guys to look up, and it's called Mind Shift CBT. It's a free app designed to help people with anxiety, stress, and negative thinking patterns with guided tools, coping strategies, and practical exercises for reframing self-talk. There's this book that I love. I personally own this book. I own her workbook as well. I've used it for several years. The book is called My Money, My Way, and it's by Kumiko Love. She also has a YouTube channel that's really cool, and Instagram, I think Facebook too. But she will actually sit through, on her YouTube channel, she will sit and go through her monthly budget and how she tracks it and what she spent. It's like her real life budget and what she spent on food and stuff. It's actually really cool. This book provides tools to align your emotional health with your financial health and helps you release deprivation and embrace the life of fulfillment. You guys check out her story. She's very inspirational. And then I wanted to give you, for those documentary nerds like me, I want to give you a documentary that you can check out. It's featuring Gabor Mate that explores trauma, healing, and how pain can live in the body and how it shows up in our behavior and our relationships. But before we go, I want you to remember something. Ahimsa isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware of the ways you hurt yourself, aware of the ways you abandon yourself, aware of the ways you speak to yourself, and aware of the ways you care for yourself. And then on the flip side, it also helps create awareness of how you may speak to others, how you may care for others, and how you may hurt others as well. Most of us would never intentionally harm someone we love. And yet many of us harm ourselves daily through criticism, neglect, shame, exhaustion, and impossible expectations. Maybe nonviolence starts here, not with fixing yourself, not with becoming someone new, but with treating yourself like someone worth protecting, someone worth caring for, someone worth listening to, someone worth loving, including on the messy days, actually, especially on the messy days. All right, that's what I have for you today. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Share it with somebody who could use a little extra compassion and a little less self-judgment. You can connect with me on Instagram at _Carla Jean 143 for more resources, mindfulness practices, the show notes, and wellness tools. Visit carlajean143.com and follow on YouTube at Carla Jean 143. Until next time, take a deep breath, drink some water, and remember, the longest relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Try being on your side. This is Balanced But Barely with Carla Jean Lundgren, and we're figuring this out together.